Hello, welcome to the overview of the updated annual filing system for local governments. My name is Kaylee Paggio and I am with the Office of the Washington State Auditor. This is a recorded training to help local governments learn how to navigate and use our updated filing system, which is used to submit annual reports to our office each year. We will start out by providing a little background on how this update came to be and what you as local governments can expect from this updated filing system. We will provide a brief overview of the annual report requirements, and then we will go into walking you through the filing system and all of the fun and exciting updates. We will wrap up this training with additional resources and training opportunities for local governments related to the annual report. So without further ado, let's get started. First, let's start out with a little background on why the State Auditor's Office, also referred to as SAO, needed to update the annual filing system. The previous filing system was built in a program that has become outdated and we were no longer able to maintain it or make updates to it. We also wanted to align the look and feel of the filing system with other aspects of our SAO website. Most importantly, though, we wanted to create a better user experience for our clients, and we hope after introducing you to the updated filing system that you think we were able to achieve that goal. With the updated filing system, local governments can expect new functionalities to better identify and correct errors, new ways to get help directly in the filing system, and much easier navigation. We were also able to update the timing for automatic signing out, so you will not get logged out automatically as frequently as the previous filing system. Overall, local governments can expect a much better user experience. We understand change can feel daunting, but we have not changed anything to the information that we collect in the annual report. We have only updated the vessel in which we collect that information, so all the templates and forms will remain the same. The only exception to that is we have made one minor update to the template of the Schedule 09, and we will talk about that later on in the training. We also made updates to how we collect the Schedule 17 and 20, and we will go over those changes as well. It's time now to go over the annual reporting requirements and what all that entails. We will be going over each component and providing a summary of what information is required to provide. If you are new to local government or maybe new to your current position, you might be asking yourself, what is this annual report I keep hearing about? Essentially, the annual report is a compilation of a government's financial activity and other information, and it is required for all local governments in the state of Washington. The State Auditor's Office is responsible for developing systems and forms for governments to submit this information to us, which is done via the annual filing system. The annual report requirement is established in state law and requires the report to be submitted within 150 days after the close of each fiscal year. Now that we have a very basic understanding of what the annual report is, let's dive into the various components of the report. The Schedule 01 is the biggest component of the report, and it's required for all local governments. It's used as a summary of financial activity for all reportable funds using bars codes to identify the specific type of activity. It should include all beginning and ending balances, revenues, and expenditures for the reporting year. The Schedule 09 is used to report information on the government's liabilities. These are things like loans, bonds, pension, leases, etc. If a government truly does not have liabilities, then the Schedule 09 is not required. However, we strongly encourage reviewing the Schedule 09 instructions in the BARS manual to see all types of liabilities that are required to report, just to make sure that it truly does not apply to your government. Then the Schedule 15, this is used to report expenditures that used state financial assistance. It's important to remember that this is for expenditures only. So it's only reported when you use state financial assistance to pay for something. This should be reported in the fiscal year that the expenditures occurred. Then the Schedule 16, also referred to as the SEFA, which stands for Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. This schedule is used to report expenditures that used federal award money. Just like the Schedule 15, it's for expenditures only and should be reported in the fiscal year that the expenditures occurred. The Schedule 21 is used to collect information on how the government responds to risks for liability, property, health, unemployment, etc. Governments will be required to answer questions directly in the filing system to determine if the full Schedule 21 is required based on the responses. It is required, though, for all governments to answer the questions in the filing system. Then for cash basis governments, the notes to the financial statements are intended to communicate information necessary for a fair presentation of financial position. Now, these are required for governments that receive over $2 million in annual revenue and receive a financial statement audit. Now, some governments may have an external authority that requires the preparation of notes regardless of our SAO requirements. So make sure that you are aware of those external requirements. For GAAP, all GAAP governments are required to submit their financial package, which includes the financial statements, MD&A, notes to the financial statements, and required supplementary information. This is required for all GAAP governments, regardless of size. The Schedule 22 is a questionnaire that provides information on the government's operations for the reporting year. It also requires additional components to be attached, such as meeting minutes, county treasurer reports, bank statements, policies, etc. The questionnaire and related attachments are all done directly in the filing system. This is generally required for all local governments with annual revenue of less than $300,000, but it's also required for specific government types regardless of revenue. For example, fire districts are all required to complete this schedule regardless of their annual revenue. Stay tuned though, we have some exciting updates to this in the filing system. And if you're not sure if your government is required to complete this questionnaire, you can always see the instructions in the BARS manual, which lists those government types. And one nice thing about the filing system is most likely if it does not apply to you, then it will not be displayed in the filing system. There are a few components that are only required for cities, towns, and counties. So if you're associated with a special purpose government, then these do not apply to you. Special purpose governments are basically all government types except city, town, and county. We have the Schedule 06. This is a summary of the government's bank reconciliation. We do have separate Schedule 06 trainings available if this applies to you and you're needing some additional resources. Those trainings are all located on our trainings and workshops page, or just reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction. But just a reminder, this is only required for cash basis cities, towns, and counties. The Schedule 17 applies to both cities, towns, and counties, but the instructions differ between the two, and it may not be required for your specific city, town, or county. This schedule is heavily driven by RCW, so if you're unsure if it applies to you, just review the BARS manual instructions and the applicable RCWs to make that determination. For cities and towns, it is used to document compliance with limitation on public works projects performed by public employees. The Schedule 17 for counties has two parts. Part 1 is to report information on public works projects performed by public employees. Then Part 2 is basically the same requirement as the cities one and used to report limitations on public works projects performed by public employees. Lastly is the Schedule 20. This is only required for rural counties, and this requirement is outlined in state law. It's only a select number of counties that are required to complete this, so you most likely already know if it's required for you. It is used to summarize the use of sales and use tax resources and demonstrate compliance with the state law. We are now going into what I think is the most exciting part of this training, navigating through the updated filing system. If you've been around for a while, I am very excited to show you the updates we have made. And if you're new, you're just in luck because you get to just dive right in with us. We're going to start from the very beginning. The first step is logging into the annual filing system. This is done by going to our website, www.sao.wa.gov, and clicking Client Login in the top right corner of the web page. Local governments are required to log in with their Secure Access Washington SAW user credentials. Click the option to log in with SAW, which will redirect the web page to the SAW login site. The important thing to remember here is do not use the Active Directory button. It won't work, and I want to make sure that governments avoid running into issues getting logged in. After you click the option to log in with SAW, it will redirect the web page to the SAW login site. Enter your user credentials and follow the steps of multi-factor authentication. If you run into any issues during the login process, please don't hesitate to reach out and we are happy to assist you. After successfully logging in, it will automatically redirect the web page back to the SAO Online Services site. From there, click on the Annual Report Filing tab and select Annual Reports. This is the Annual Report homepage, which lists current and prior year annual reports for governments that your account is associated with going back to fiscal year 2020. Each annual report has a dashboard that displays details of the report, such as basis of accounting, dates the report was created and submitted, and the name of who submitted the report. When you're ready to create a new annual report, just click the button in the top right corner of the page. A pop-up window will display for you to select the government you are filing for, and the year will auto-populate the most recent filing year. Let's look at the dashboard more closely so we can learn what these new functionalities are. If the report is in progress, the dashboard will indicate how many errors are in the report currently. In this example, there are 2 required errors and 1 warning error. If you have been around a while, these icons have replaced what we previously referred to as red and yellow flags. The red icons indicate it's a required error that needs to be corrected in order to submit the report. The yellow icon indicates it's a warning error that should be evaluated, but it won't prevent the submission of the report. We also have a task tracker that resembles a gas gauge, and this will tell you the number of tasks completed out of the total number of tasks required for the report. This will update as tasks are completed. Lastly, if the report is submitted on time and by the deadline, you will receive a thumbs up icon just saying, hey, good job, you filed your report on time. There are 7 modules that are used to navigate through the different components of the annual report. Each component is categorized into the module that best correlates with the activity being reported. For example, the module titled Revenues and Expenditures is where the Schedule O1 is completed. I am really excited about this improved navigation, and I hope this makes it easier for you as the preparer to navigate through the filing system and understand more clearly where all of these different components are completed. There are several ways to receive help directly within the annual filing system. The task gauge is always displayed in the top right corner of the page, and that just helps preparers know how many tasks they have completed and how many tasks are remaining. But let's take a closer look at the download button and what is included there. I think many governments will be happy with this update. The download button is always displayed at the top, and this is where you can download individual components of the report or download it all into a single PDF. This is live and will automatically update when changes are made to the report. If you have been a previous filer, you may remember the print all function could only be used after the report is submitted. We received a lot of requests to be able to do that prior to submission, and I am happy to say your wish has been granted, and you can download the report in its entirety at any point during the filing process. As I mentioned earlier, we have some great new features for governments to receive filing assistance. We have a chat feature that we refer to as live chat, and that will be indicated at the bottom right of your webpage in a red bar that says live chat. So please note it's not directly in the help button. We also provide a link to our help desk where governments can submit technical questions related to accounting and reporting topics. A new feature here that I am also really excited about is how to contact us. If you have questions during the filing process, you can type those questions into that email message box and click send email, and it'll go to our annual report inbox that is monitored by several of our filing specialists. This allows you to submit questions without having to leave the filing system. When a filing specialist responds to your question, the response will go to the email address associated with the account used to submit the question. This is a great feature, especially if live chat isn't available and you have some questions and you just want to get those questions out and then continue on with your report while you wait for a response. So this, I hope, is a great new feature for you. Now it's time to navigate through the different modules. First one is government information, and this provides information on the reporting government. There is one question asking the government if they have activity to report during the reporting period. The answer is defaulted as yes because it's uncommon for a government to truly have no activity. No activity means the government did not receive any revenue or have any expenditures during the year. There is an information icon there that provides additional guidance if you need. After reviewing the government's information, if anything is incorrect, click the Request for Updates to Government Information button and a pop-up window will display. Once the pop-up window displays, just type in what needs to be updated and click Send Email. This will automatically go to the SAO technicians who are responsible for maintaining this database. Just like the help email, you don't even have to leave the filing system. The next module is titled Revenues and Expenditures, and this is where the Schedule 01 is filed. When you first create the report and go to this module, a pop-up window will automatically open with instructions on how to upload your completed Schedule 01 Excel file. If you aren't ready to upload, you can simply close the window and continue on. I also want to point out that there is no requirement to go through these modules in order. You can definitely bounce around if you need to. Within the pop-up window, we provide links to the templates page if you need to download your Schedule 01 template, and also direct links to the 01 instructions in the BARS manual. One thing I want to point out before moving on is the primary goal with this module specifically was to reduce the amount of clicks between steps to complete the Schedule 01. We have made it so it's a one-stop shop. You'll see what I mean as we go through the module in more detail. But if you have been a previous filer, you may remember the need to click back and forth between several steps in order to complete the Schedule 01 and triage any errors that you may have had. I am excited to share that we have resolved that issue. So let's continue on with the Revenues and Expenditures module. If you opt out of using the Schedule 01 template, there is an option to add the Schedule 01 data manually. This is done by clicking the Add Line Item button, which will open a pop-up window where you can add your line items individually. I will caution governments if they choose to add their data manually, be sure to download and export a copy of the Schedule 01 for your records. For cash basis governments, there is a button to view and export the C4 and C5 directly on the Schedule 01 section page. It will open as a pop-up window where you can download it and save it to your files. There is no need to go to another step. It is all in one place now. When you're finished exporting the statement, you can close the window and you'll still be on the Schedule 01 section page. The C4 is the summary of fund resources and uses arising from cash transaction. This is generated based on the Schedule 01 data. The C5 is the same thing, but for fiduciary funds only. If the government does not report fiduciary funds, then a C5 will not populate. Typically, that is only for cities, towns, and counties. I want to encourage cash basis governments to export and save the final version of the C4 and C5 for your records. It's always important to maintain those and keep those for your records. And also just a reminder that the C4 and C5 option is only for cash basis governments. We're still on the Schedule 01 section page, and I want to point out a few new features that we have. There is an option to download the Schedule 01 in PDF or Excel, and there is now an option to export the Schedule 01 data in the filing system as a template. You might be thinking, what good is that if I uploaded a template already? Well, this feature can be useful if you added the 01 data manually, or maybe you uploaded a template but did a bunch of edits directly in the filing system. So you would want to download a copy just to have in case you need to make changes later on and you would prefer to do that in the template and re-upload. You can always make edits and re-upload without having to worry about format issues. Now for the drum roll, we have built a filter function so you can actually filter your Schedule 01 data directly in the filing system. This is especially convenient for governments with a lot of line items, and maybe you're needing to look at just Fund 401 or looking for a specific BARS code or even object code. The intent of this was to make it fully functional right in the filing system. There are a lot of options now, and I think this one will be really nice and convenient. Let's look at the Schedule 01 data table. This is where all your line items will be displayed, whether you added it manually or uploaded a completed template. We understand it can be frustrating when you receive errors and you're trying to understand what they mean. If a line item has a required and/or warning error, you can click the line item and it will show all errors associated with that specific line item. Then you have the option to edit that line item or delete it. At the bottom of the table, there is a summary that shows the total number of line items, total number of required errors, and the total number of warning errors. You may hear me say this a few times during this training, but I am really excited to show you the new way of displaying errors for the Schedule 01. Now we are still on the Schedule 01 section, so we haven't needed to move to a different section yet. Remember, our goal was making it a one-stop shop. On the right side of the data table, we just talked about, there are three headers titled Line Item Errors, General Errors, and Variance Checks. We'll be going through all three of these in more detail. But first, we have the line items error. These are the same errors you see in the data table because it's errors associated with specific line items. The really cool feature though is the toggle options. You can use these toggle buttons to filter that error and it'll display the results in the data table. For example, if you have several required line item errors but only want to see the line items with invalid BARS codes, you can click the toggle button and only the line items with that error will display in the data table. Then to view everything again, you just click the toggle button again, which will turn it off. The toggle button will say on or off, so there's no guessing game of how to tell if the toggle is on or off. I want to point out the information icons that are provided. These will be helpful during the filing process because it provides detailed guidance on what is included in each of these headers and what they are used for. Line item errors will be displayed and will include errors associated with specific line items. Then we have general errors, and these are errors applied to the Schedule O1 as a whole and not associated with a specific line item, which is why there is no toggle feature here. Now let's look at the variance checks. If you've been a previous filer, you may remember that in the previous filing system, you would need to click back and forth between the steps to view the variance and then return to the Schedule O1 to make any corrections. Now it is all right here in one place. If there is a fund with a variance resulting in a required or warning error, the fund number, fund name, and variance amount will be displayed in the table as shown here. So you can easily identify which funds have a variance and what the variance amount is. If you want to look at all funds regardless of variance errors, you can still open the full reports by clicking the blue report titles. The reports will open as a pop-up window, and once you're finished reviewing, you can close the window. Here's an example of what those reports look like. As you can see, it includes all funds, even if the variance is 0. You can download and export this report as well if you need. Now we are officially moving on from the Schedule O1 section page, but we are still in the Revenues and Expenditures module. We do have a summary step, but it only displays for cities, towns, and counties because it includes variance check reports that are informational only. These variances don't result in a required or warning error because they could possibly be explainable, and these won't impact the submission of the report. So we wanted to move those outside to its own page to avoid any confusion about the reporting requirements. This section is for GAAP enterprise funds only. This section lists BARS codes reported in enterprise funds on the Schedule O1 that are not defined as operating or non-operating in the BARS manual. On this section, you are required to identify what amounts are considered operating and or non-operating based on your financial statements. The sum of the two fields must equal the total in the amount column. At the bottom, there will be a summary to display the total amounts of operating revenue and operating expenses, along with the calculated operating income or loss. These amounts should match to the financial statements and are based on what was reported on the Schedule O1 and what was indicated as operating in the fields above. There is an information icon with more details on how these amounts are calculated, and you can click the blue Here icon, which will open up a report, and this will list out all of the details and include what BARS codes and what amounts are included in these calculations. And that wraps up the Revenues and Expenditures module. Let's move on to the Liabilities module. This is where the Schedule O9 is completed. Once you click on the Liabilities module, you'll first land on the Schedule O9 Instructions section. This provides general instructions on what the Schedule O9 entails, and we also include links to the O9 instructions in the BARS manuals. You will be required to select yes or no if the reporting government has liabilities to report, but please note that if the yes option is already selected and does not allow you to change the response, that indicates either the government had ending balances on the prior year 09 or the government is listed on the Department of Retirement Services pension report. Both of those indications require a Schedule O9 to be completed, so the filing system knows that and pre-selected yes for you. Similar to the Schedule O1, a pop-up window will automatically open when you go to the Schedule O9 section after the instructions page, and you'll select if the data will be uploaded via a template or added manually. If you're not ready to import the data, you can just close that window and come back to it later. For the Schedule O9, it can be easier to add the line items manually because you can select from the drop-down for the ID number instead of having to manually type it into a template. It is important to note here that you must select the correct debt type before you're able to select the correct ID number. That is because the ID numbers are based on the debt type. A good trick here is if you don't see the ID number you're looking for, most likely it's because the debt type isn't correct. The Schedule 09 page looks very similar to the Schedule 01 and has a header for line item errors, then a variance check header. It operates the exact same as the Schedule 01, but let's take a quick look at the variance header. Just like the 01, you can click the blue report links to open each variance check report, and it'll open as a pop-up window. Then once you're finished reviewing or exporting the report, you can close the window and you'll still be on the Schedule 09 section page. Variances here are considered warning errors, so they won't prevent you from submitting the report. However, variances here are not common, so I do encourage local governments to review all variances to ensure nothing is incorrect. As I mentioned in the beginning, we do have one minor update to the Schedule 09 template. In the previous template, there was an optional column to include the bars code related to the function of that debt. But this data was not accurate, nor was it being used anymore for data analysis, so we decided to remove it. So that is gone from the template if you choose to use a template to upload your 09 data. Now let's move on to the grants module. This is where the Schedule 15 and 16 are completed. Just like the 09, when you click on the grants module, you'll first land on the grant instruction section page. We provide information icons with guidance on what is required for each of these schedules, and we also include links to the template and BAR's manual instructions. You are required to select yes or no for both the 15 and 16. If yes is selected, the corresponding section page header will appear. If neither of these schedules apply to the reporting government and no is selected, then the section headers will not be displayed and you can continue on to the next module. For training purposes, though, we have both responses selected as yes, so that you can see the headers have populated. I know this will sound like a broken record, but just like the 01 and 09, a pop-up window will automatically open where you can select to upload a completed template or add the line items manually. I also think the Schedule 15 is easier to add the line items manually because you can select the grantor from the drop-down list. And if you filed a Schedule 15 before, I want to point out one nice update here is that in the grantor field, you can type in the state agency name and it'll populate in the drop-down menu for you. Previously, it would only populate based on the bars code and not the agency name. So if you were entering this manually, you would have to know the correct bars code for that specific state agency. The Schedule 15 is pretty straightforward, so there are no variance checks and very minimal potential line item errors. This section looks and functions the same as the 09, so there's really nothing new or exciting to report here, just an overall more efficient look and feel of this section. Moving on to the Schedule 16 section, again, you have the option to upload a template or add the data manually. And this is what the manual entry looks like. You have all of the applicable fields, so you can enter in that data and add your line item. This is probably starting to look similar, which is good because we wanted to really try and make it more intuitive and uniform throughout the filing process. You'll see the Schedule 16 data displayed whether it was uploaded or manually added. And if there are any line item errors, you can see those in the data table or to the right in using the toggle feature to view only the line items with those specific errors. The Schedule 16 has a secondary component that is required, which is the notes to the Schedule 16. These notes are not the same as the notes to the financial statements. They are only applicable to the information reported on the Schedule 16. We have a separate section page for you to attach these notes. To attach the file, you'll click the blue Select Files button and choose the correct file to attach. It will then display below so you can see and confirm that the correct file was attached. If you accidentally attach the wrong file, no worries, there is a little X icon on the right and you can delete it. So this is a pretty straightforward page. As we move into the additional schedules module, I want to preface it by saying that the sections within this module are going to differ based on your government type and basis of accounting. I will be going through all sections that are within this module, but just note that you may not see all of them within your own annual report. The first section you'll see within this module is the instructions page. This will appear for all cash basis governments because at minimum, you'll need to select yes or no if the notes to the financial statements applies to your government. If you're filing and don't remember if it applies to you, there is an information icon with guidance to help you. For cities, towns, and counties, you will have a secondary question asking if the government will be submitting the Schedule 17. For GAAP cities, towns, and counties, the Schedule 17 will be the only question on this page since the financial package is required for all GAAP governments. That section will automatically be displayed in this module. For cash basis governments, this is the section where you'll attach the notes to the financial statements. Typically, this is a single document, but if for some reason you have multiple files, they can all be attached here. Again, if you accidentally attach the wrong file, you can delete it here as well. For our GAAP governments, this is what the section looks like for attaching the financial package, which includes financial statements, notes, and RSI, and MD&A. Oftentimes, governments will submit these as separate files, and you can now attach multiple files here if you need. The Schedule 06 is an attachment as well, so that will get attached on the Schedule 06 section within the Additional Schedules module. Since we know this is required for all cash basis cities, towns, and counties, this section will automatically be included. Now we are going to get into the Schedule 17, and as I mentioned in the beginning, we do have some updates to how we collect this information. Previously, this has always been an attachment, but we have converted it so it's now completed directly in the filing system. Just a reminder that this schedule is only applicable to cities, towns, and counties. One important factor to remember is there are separate instructions for counties and cities and towns. Let's review the Schedule 17 updates for counties first. For counties, there are two parts to the Schedule 17. Part 1 can be completed using the prescribed template as shown here and uploading it into the filing system, or there is an option to add the data manually. Then if Part 2 applies, that is filled out directly in the filing system, which I will show you in just a moment. Still talking about the Schedule 17 for counties, this is where you can select to upload the template or add the data manually. None of the content of this schedule is changing, so we have only changed how we are collecting it. And this is the Add Line Items Manually pop-up window, so you will input the data here and click Add Line Item. If Part 2 applies to the county, then you'll check this box and the fields required for Part 2 will display. You'll input the data into the applicable fields, and there are some line items that are going to be automatically calculated based on what was entered. We provided an information icon on each requirement to help you know what should be reported in each field. Moving on to the Schedule 17 for cities, it's very straightforward, but there is no template or manual upload option. So everything is filled out directly in the filing system. This is essentially the same thing as the county's Part 2. You'll input the data into the applicable fields, and then there are automatic calculations based on what you input. Again, nothing is changing content-wise. We just moved this from an attached form to direct input into the filing system. The Schedule 20 is a unique component that is only required for rural counties, so we have developed a separate training on updates to this schedule that can be found on the Trainings and Workshops page. If the Schedule 20 applies to your county, please watch that training for those updates. The Schedule 21 section will automatically be included for everyone's annual report since it is required for all governments to answer these questions, which determine if the full Schedule 21 is required. After answering the questions, it will say at the bottom if it's not applicable, but if it is applicable, a box will appear where you can attach the full Schedule 21. And that template is available on our templates page as well. I understand the Schedule 22 doesn't apply to everyone, but just bear with me because if it does apply to you, we have some really exciting updates to share with you. We have built a new functionality that allows the preparer to import responses from their prior year's Schedule 22. This is only allowable for specific questions, so remember it is not all of them. If you choose to utilize this feature, we do encourage you to review the imported responses just to make sure nothing has changed or if it's not accurate. And you can just edit it in the current year report. There's no need to go back and change anything in the prior year. We have also created information icons for each question, and that provides additional guidance on what exactly we are needing from that question. If you're a previous filer, you may remember the Schedule 22 was broken out into several different steps, but it's now all on one screen and the questions are categorized by collapsible headers to help make it more efficient. This is what the Schedule 22 module looks like. As you can see, everything is on one screen to reduce the back and forth clicks between steps trying to answer questions. You'll see the category headers and you just click the header to expand or collapse that section of questions. The header will also include how many questions are pending responses so you can clearly identify if you missed a question somewhere. So there's no need to scroll through trying to figure out where the missing question is. It will tell you and highlight it as red. The blue button at the top is what you'll click to import the prior year responses. Again, this is only for certain questions, so just keep that in mind. Within the Schedule 22, there are several different types of questions. Some may ask for an explanation to be typed out in a comment box, some will be radio buttons, and some will be check boxes, whereas some will require an attachment. We have created, though, a new format for responses to certain questions, which is a new table format. I know you might be thinking, well, typing all that information out into a table is more or just as much work than an attachment. But bear with me, the reason for this is to ensure we are receiving the correct information needed. And the next year, so when you're filing the 2024 annual report submitted in 2025, you'll be able to import the information from these tables into your current year report. So since these table features are new, the import prior year responses won't work for these, but the next filing year they will. So in the end, it will be more efficient for you as a preparer. I want to quickly look at the attachment and table format questions just to explain some of these functionalities and how they work. First, questions that require an attachment will require you to select the radio button for attached, then the blue select file button will appear. Click that button and choose the correct file to attach. You'll know that it's attached successfully when you see the attachment link. If you accidentally attach the wrong file, you can click the delete button. Second, questions that require you to fill in the table with the applicable information will display at minimum one row, but you'll click the Add Row button to add the number of rows that you need. Then you just type in the information for each column and everything automatically saves. If you added too many rows, you can remove them by clicking the blue Remove link. But again, I know this is a new format, so if you do get stuck, utilize those information icons because we have provided additional instructions there as well. The other attachments module is truly only there if you need it. Nothing is required here, and it is just a placeholder if a government needs or wants to attach something that wasn't asked for already in a previous module. You can skip this module entirely if it's not needed. The Submit Report module is where you can see the final validation check if there are any outstanding items that need to be completed. You can click the Fix Errors link and it'll take you to that module or section. Once everything is ready to go, the final validation check will be cleared and you'll be prompted to sign the annual report. This button generates your electronic signature with your name that is associated with the account you use to log in. Multiple users can sign if needed. This will generate the certification of the report. After you sign, you'll see your name indicating the electronic signature, and you will need to click the Submit Annual Report button to officially submit the report. You should see this message that indicates the report was submitted successfully. It's very important to make sure that you actually click the Submit button after you sign the report. Sometimes new filers will only sign the report and miss the Submit button. Once the report is submitted, you'll also receive an email confirmation. For cities, towns, and counties, you will see one additional module in your annual report for the road street report that is prescribed and required by the Washington State Department of Transportation. The content of this report has not changed, but we moved it outside of the SAO required annual report components because it's not truly a component of our annual report. We collect this information on behalf of WashDOT, but they are the prescribing agency for its content. You'll notice that the module is after the report is submitted. The reason for that is because this is not part of our 150-day annual report deadline. You can come back and complete this module after the annual report is submitted, and you don't even need to unlock the report. This report will still be generated based on the Schedule 01, so keep in mind anytime a new Schedule 01 is uploaded, it will overwrite the road street report data. So we encourage governments to wait on completing the road street report until the SAO annual report is completed. Also, be sure to download and keep a copy of the road street report from the filing system just in case you unlock the report later, maybe during an audit, and make changes to the Schedule 01. That will overwrite the road street report, and if you have exported and kept a copy of the road street report, you can ensure that the data isn't lost. Well, that wraps up our navigation through the updated filing system. I hope you're excited to use these new functionalities we have when you're filing your annual report. But before we wrap up this training, I want to go over some resources and future training opportunities that are available for local governments. In addition to the recorded training that you're watching right now, we will have several live webinar trainings each month, January through April 2024. All training information, including registration, can be found on our training and workshops page. We also have some great new resources for the annual report, and those can be found on the BARS and annual filing FAQ page. Both of those pages are accessed from the BARS and annual filing tab on our SAO homepage. I hope I have your attention because we have a very important reminder. 2024 is a leap year, which means the annual report is due by Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. Remember, the deadline is established in state law that says it's due within 150 days after the close of each fiscal year. Since it's required in state law, we are not able to grant extensions to the deadline. Since the updated filing system launched early January 24, we are strongly encouraging local governments to start filing their reports earlier than normal to allow plenty of time for questions and assistance if it's needed. We're hoping that the updated filing system is more intuitive and user-friendly for you, but anytime there is a change, we always expect an increase in assistance. On that note, if you do have questions and need assistance, you can email our annual filing inbox at lgcsfeedback at sao.wa.gov or submit a help desk and it will get assigned to a technician that is an expert on that topic. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this training and learn about our updated annual filing system. We appreciate your commitment to complying with the state law reporting requirements, and we hope with this updated system, the filing process will become more efficient for our clients. Remember, we are here to help, so never hesitate to reach out to us. Have a wonderful day.